These women are completely out of touch with reality. And you're right, ABC should...
Karoline Leavitt's revelation shakes The View. What's really going on? The hosts of The View found themselves scrambling to respond after Karoline Leavitt's unexpected revelation sent shockwaves through the media. Today, we're diving into what happened.
The media are now unloading all their nasty attacks on rising Trump White House star and new press secretary, Karoline Leavitt. Watch.
Why her statement has everyone talking, and what this could mean for the future of the show. If you've been wondering what triggered this controversy, stay tuned. You're in the right place. Karoline Leavitt's bold stand. Karoline Leavitt has made waves in the political world, and this time...
completely out of touch with reality. And you're right, ABC should...
She has taken on more than what The View host could handle. As a prominent figure and former press secretary for Donald Trump, she has faced intense scrutiny from critics. However, rather than silencing her, the backlash against her has only fueled a larger debate.
Are completely out of touch with reality. And you're right, ABC should wake up.
What started as criticism quickly turned into a broader discussion about media bias, hypocrisy, and political discourse. Joy Behar's controversial remarks. Take Joy Behar, for example. She dismissed Karoline's success by reducing it to her appearance, a comment that sparked immediate backlash. This reaction was particularly surprising given Behar's frequent advocacy for women's empowerment. Many were quick to call out the apparent contradiction. How can someone who champions women's rights undermine the achievements of a young, successful woman? Karoline, known for her confidence and outspokenness, did not hesitate to challenge these criticisms directly. Media reaction and public debate. Greg Gutfeld from Fox News also weighed in, adding fuel to the debate with a remark that had the internet buzzing.
Are completely out of touch with reality. And you're right, ABC should...
Since Karoline's response, social media has been filled with reactions, with many applauding her for standing her ground, but it didn't stop there. Karoline also took aim at what she described as media-driven narratives, urging people to see past political spin. Her message was clear. The public should focus on substance over sensationalism. What's
calls her a 10. I mean, how dare she objectify a woman with a sexist rating system? But it's such a typical thing from a 1 point.
As this discussion continues to unfold, one big question remains. Will The View address the backlash more directly, or will they attempt to move past it? And how will this controversy impact political discussions in mainstream media moving forward? Join the conversation. What do you think about Karoline Leavitt's statements and the reaction from The View? Do you believe this is a case of media bias, or was this just another heated exchange? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.
Get on board, or they can prepare to lose another election just like they did on November 5th.
Their perceived relevance is borrowed. Based on the shocked silence on The View, they felt every bit of that reality check. It's obvious to anyone watching that The View is upset that someone younger, sharper, and more deserving is doing better than them. Whoopi Goldberg stepped in after Joy Behar's remarks and tried to provide a different narrative that surprised many viewers. Acting as a mediator, she chastised Karoline for what she called a lack of tolerance for sensitivity. However, Whoopi wasn't sharing knowledge. She was trying to prevent further controversy. Karoline, too, appeared uncomfortable with the situation. In a now viral video, Whoopi attempted to equate wokeness with civil rights, but Karoline remained firm, pointing out the flaws in Whoopi's argument. This raised the question, was Whoopi unaware of the difference, or was she intentionally misleading her audience? Her response suggested that she felt the criticism. Given Whoopi's strong advocacy for women's rights,
something yesterday that really pissed me off. And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here.
Oh, yeah.
Let me explain something to you, because without that wokeness, you might not have that job.
Why didn't she challenge Joy Behar for attributing Karoline's success to her appearance? Perhaps it's because Whoopi's moral stance seems to align selectively. Instead of holding her co-host accountable, Whoopi criticized 27-year-old Karoline when she used her first White House press conference to address the mainstream media's loss of trust among average Americans. Whoopi's response seemed to shift the focus toward identity politics rather than addressing the core issue, a common deflection tactic. However, Karoline didn't back down. She called out The View for making baseless accusations, such as when they linked Elon Musk to a criminal act without verified evidence. She pointed out the irony of the hosts demanding accountability while spreading questionable claims.
Women were not invited to that table. Women were not invited to many tables in this nation. The reason we fought and busted our behinds to make sure that you didn't have to worry about this. And now to hear you talk about it and to hear anybody talk about the wokeness was put in place for a reason.
She also reminded them that, just a few years ago, the media took a completely different stance on similar issues. For years, The View and other major media platforms have shaped public opinion, suppressed opposing perspectives, and promoted specific narratives without consequence. However, thanks to Karoline's bold stance, the push for media accountability is gaining momentum. Her call for journalistic responsibility has sparked discussions about the accuracy of reporting. Without the ability to control narratives unchecked, legacy media is facing increased scrutiny.
Black people couldn't get into colleges because women could not get into the colleges they wanted to go to. This is all.
Since Karoline challenged the mainstream script, the media landscape is reacting strongly. She has even proposed a significant restructuring of the White House press corps to ensure more balanced coverage, signaling a shift toward greater transparency in journalism. "We will call you out if we think your reporting about this White House is inaccurate or contains false information," Karoline stated. For decades, the Associated Press and the White House Correspondents Association control the conversation, determining who could ask questions and which narratives were supported. But that's no longer the case. Karoline made it clear, legacy media cannot function without oversight. New media voices that challenge the status quo will now have 2 front-row seats that were previously reserved for White House staff. If Karoline's decision to restore press passes for 440 journalists, who had been denied them during the Biden administration, wasn't enough to unsettle The View, the panel's reaction made it clear. Sunny Hostin mocked the idea that reporters from new media could attend briefings, acting as if only legacy media elites should have a seat at the table. When Whoopi interrupted in her usual condescending manner, suggesting that under the new administration,
that Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar and the rest of the ladies on The View spend their time calling Republicans the conspiracy theorists, but they have been wrong about everything they have said over the last couple of years.
People would simply spout stuff. The irony was evident. For years, The View and other mainstream media outlets have been shaping news narratives to fit their agendas. But now that Karoline is holding them accountable, Whoopi wants to talk about standards. At its core, this isn't about ethics or journalism, it's about control.
President Trump to Hitler, they have mocked him, they have shamed him, they have lied about him consistently on their show. And it was a joy to watch them on November the 6th when they realized that tens of millions of Americans do not listen to the lies that they have spewed.
The hosts of The View thrive on influencing public opinion. Their real concern is that millions of Americans are turning to alternative media sources. For the first time in years, legacy media is losing control of the narrative, and they don't like it. Karoline Leavitt, the youngest press secretary in American history, has criticized traditional media for losing credit.
But she's wise beyond her years, and she has access to the president, which is something someone didn't have.
Pointing out that millions now seek news from independent sources. She reinforced her position. "We will confront you if we think your reporting about this White House is inaccurate or misleading." The View is now feeling the pressure. For years, they have been able to shape public discourse with little pushback. But those days are over. Karoline Leavitt, a press secretary making history, just sent a clear message to legacy media. Accountability is here. Additionally, Karoline has taken on the role previously held by Karine Jean-Pierre, but rather than emphasizing identity, she has demonstrated that leadership is about more than meeting diversity standards. It's about standing up for the American people and demanding accountability. After their initial attempts to discredit Karoline fell flat, The View tried a classic gotcha question on illegal immigration, assuming they had her cornered.
Doesn't surround himself by anybody smart. And Joy Behar and those guys, of course this was going to happen. This is why conservative women just have to move on, do their thing, and not worry about the criticism from folks like at The View.
And we are expecting the media to be hostile.
Spoiler alert, they didn't. Karoline flipped the narrative by reinforcing that, in Trump's America, law-abiding citizens are prioritized over criminals. Suddenly, their argument fell apart. Rather than acknowledging defeat, The View doubled down, continuing to push their usual narrative instead of engaging in an honest discussion.
2 ideas. This word wokeness didn't look like she really understood what it meant, or certainly the way Karoline Leavitt meant it when she made that statement, and she was conflating it with civil rights and how, women didn't have the right to vote or own property and all of that. That has nothing to do with wokeness, which is, of course, about putting people in there because of their immutable characteristics rather than the merit that they bring to the table.
While they often present themselves as champions of justice, their goal here was clear: to trap Karoline. However, she was far too sharp to fall for their tactics. As the hosts scrambled, Karoline remained composed, standing firm in her position. She isn't just observing the view, she's holding the legacy media machine accountable. By exposing their tactics, she is revealing their playbook to the public. And because they can't keep up, they are only proving her point. In the end,
500 arrests ICE has made so far since President Trump came back into office. Can you just tell us the numbers? How many have a criminal record versus those who are just in the country illegally?
All of them, because they illegally broke our nation's law.
Karoline delivered a powerful message. The View has become so focused on catering to one side of the political spectrum that it has lost its sense of direction.